The wood chips are an amazing resource, and in this video I'm going to talk about some of the tips and tricks that I use to obtain this material for free. I'm also going to talk about some of the many ways that we utilize this material on our property and how ultimately this can help to improve the soil quality, which will lead to better food for you on your property. One of the best ways I've found success in obtaining wood chips is just to approach the crews that are working in your area directly. Go up and speak to their supervisor, let them know that your property is available in its specific location, and you make it easy enough for them to access it. They're going to be more than willing to work with you. I always keep a couple of cones on hand so that if I'm not there when they show up, I'll be able to mark the specific location where I would like them to dump. As a gesture of gratitude, I typically will offer the crews, something in exchange, whether that be a cold drink or if we have something in abundance, eggs or fruit or something like that. And typically they don't accept it, but it's nice to at least be able to offer that up. One thing that's also a potential resource is chances are somewhere in your county or an adjacent county is the tree service or arborists that have the contract for clearing the power lines for your local utility company. If you go in and contact them directly and leave them your name, your number, what your location is, and the amount of material that you're willing to accept, I've had some good success in doing that, and that may be another resource that you can tap into. Another area where you might find some success is going down to your county road department. They're going to be responsible for storm damage cleanup and clearing rights of ways, and similarly, you can leave your vital information with their office. That may be a viable option for you as well. Yeah, another way that I've been successful getting wood chips is just by putting a sign up out front at the start of my driveway that leads into my property. By doing this, I've had several contacts and I've had success getting wood chips, as well as I've been contacted by a local cabinet shop who's been providing me feedstock for my biochar operation. So a lot of these things can be obtained if you simply just ask the question. It's all free of charge, and this is just another way that I go about obtaining this type of material. A lot of times crews dump and discard their piles in areas that are publicly accessible, and if you can obtain permission, it could be a potentially viable source. These piles here have been at this spot for about 2 years, and this is some material that is finely aged, and I wind up getting this for specific projects at my property. But this is some very, very, very good quality, just good organic material that's free for the taking. One other resource I thought was worth mentioning in the context of this video is something called chip drop. And it's nothing that I've actually used, nor am I advocating for this particular service, but it is something that's out there and it may be a resource that you can look into. One of the very important aspects of utilizing wood chips is moisture retention as well as weed suppression. As you can see, the weeds have been suppressed quite adequately around these newly transplanted bare root trees, which are just now breaking dormancy. This is an example of a white mulberry that I planted from bare root stock 18 years ago. And this tree was occasionally hand watered, but its success is largely due to the fact that I heavily mulched this with wood chips around the base, which really helped to retain the moisture and allow this tree to flourish. This particular tree wound up being the beneficiary of having a mulch ring that was about 6 feet in diameter. Let me show you an example of some additional trees that I planted along this fence line. They are also white mulberry, planted this winter from bare rootstock. The mulch ring around them is much smaller than what I had done in the past. You can see the value in keeping the weeds suppressed, and the moisture is going to be retained from the water that I will be giving to these trees. Here's another example of trees that are benefiting from the use of these mulch rings. This is red gum eucalyptus. I dug these up last year. These are volunteers that I dug up and transplanted, and once they struck root, I planted them in the fall. And you can see all of the new growth that's taking place on these trees this winter as we head into spring. There's about 40 trees along this line that are benefiting from the use of these mulch rings. Another very important use of all this material is livestock bedding. We use it for not only our pigs, but our chickens and our cows. And all this material, once utilized, will wind up eventually finding its way into the compost yard. But underneath this is the heavier wood chips. And then the stuff on the top is a shaving that we get from a local mill. Every bit of this is free of charge. We don't pay for any of this material. Wood chips are also really great for dust abatement and cutting down on the mud that would be generated in high traffic areas in the wintertime. Not only do these wood chips help with moisture retention and weed suppression, but they go a very long way in helping to develop a very fungally dominated soil. This is a planting space that's been under development for going on its second year now. Another really effective use of these wood chips is just as a mulch and ground cover in between my raised garden boxes. Makes a nice walking surface, as well as helps to suppress the weeds and works for dust abatement. All of this compostable material has wood chips added into it as the carbonaceous source, and it's actively being broken down by not only these hens, but all the soil life that's within these piles. I can either leave this in directly as it is and utilize this material as a more kind of a heavier compostable mulch, or I can sift this out and make it more refined by bringing out this heavier woody material. Wood chips and compost are excellent for dust bathing. I utilize wood chips in my hugel mounds and in planting spaces along walkways. How is it a pile of wood chips just like this can help you grow better food? Well, one of the best ways to grow better food is to start by growing better soil. And one of the best ways to do that is through the use of mulch. And mulching has several benefits, not the least of which is moisture retention within the soil, temperature regulation. It also reduces and almost eliminates, in most cases, erosion. And material like this adds a very fungally dominated, rich organic material once broken down. Soil is said to be the stomach of the earth because so much digestion takes place at that level, most of which we'll never see, and it takes a good deal of time in order for that digestion to occur. It's constantly taking place, and we can do a lot to encourage that by providing that environment where that soil life will want to do its job. If you like this video, you're probably interested in building your soil. I've done some other videos on the subject, and if you like, you can click here now. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.